In the news tonight, fighting resumes between government forces and rebels in the Syrian city of Aleppo after the collapse of peace talks in Geneva. The Yemeni Prime Minister says his government intends to achieve peace and stability in his country as peace talks enter a fourth day in Kuwait. And South Korea denounces North Korea after it fires the missile amid concerns that the isolated state might conduct a nuclear test ahead of a rare ruling party meeting in May. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Jordan warned of serious consequences of Israeli settlers and police storming off Al-Aqsa Mosque, Al-Haram al-Sharif, today. State Minister for Media Affairs, Mohammed al-Momani, said that the Israeli violations against worshippers at Al-Aqsa Mosque, Haram al-Sharif, are a violation of international laws and conventions, warning that such practices would lead to dangerous consequences. The minister demanded Israeli occupation authorities to immediately stop such moves, deny entry to settlers and Israeli forces into the yard of the holy shrine, and allow Palestinian worshippers to enter the mosque. Minister of Foreign and Expatriate Affairs Nasser Joudeh discussed with France's Special Envoy for the Middle East peace process, Pierre Vimont, French proposals to breathe new life into the stalled Middle East peace process. Joudeh and the French diplomat agreed that all concerned parties should work to create the conditions conducive to achieving the two-state solution. The minister reiterated Jordan's support to all efforts that embodied the two-state solution to set up an independent state along the lines of June 4, 1967, East Jerusalem as its capital. Vimont outlined the French proposals to resume the peace process under international auspices, underlying Paris' keen interest to coordinate and cooperate with Jordan in this context. After a brief respite, bombs fell heavily on Aleppo, bringing the city divided between the government and rebels again to the epicenter of the Syrian war. Fighting resumed on both sides of the city after the collapse of peace talks in Geneva. The government said it began a new attack to take areas of Aleppo under rebel control, a campaign that would likely aim to seal the late route into rebel-held areas. Determined to keep their last supply route open, rebels have stepped up their bombardment of government-held areas of the city and of a predominantly Kurdish district controlled by a militia with which they are also at war. All the main combatants in the multi-sided Syrian war are fighting in the Aleppo area. Insurgents have been waging separate campaigns with the government, the Syrian Kurdish YPG, and Daesh near the Turkish border. In the ongoing war against terrorism, the United States and its allies conducted 28 strikes against Daesh terrorists in Iraq and Syria. The Combined Joint Task said in a statement that 4 strikes near 2 cities in Syria hit 3 tactical units and destroyed 2 fighting positions, an anti-air artillery system, and a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device. In Iraq, 24 strikes near 11 cities hit a weapon facility, a headquarters, and a modular facility and destroyed trench systems, supply caches, assembly areas, and a generator, among other targets. Syrian refugees continue to pour into the kingdom in the hundreds. Up to 911 people displaced by the Syrian war crossed the border over the last 72 hours. A military source said border guards provided the refugees with the necessary aid before transferring them to refugee camps. The Jordanian Royal Medical Services personnel also administered first aid to refugee patients through their medical centers at the borders. And as Yemeni peace talks entered a fourth day in Kuwait, Yemen's Prime Minister Ahmed bin Dagher said his government intended to achieve peace and stability amid continued violence in the country. The government wants the Houthis and Saleh's forces to release prisoners, withdraw from cities, and hand over weapons before discussing a solution to the political disagreement. Meanwhile, the Houthis and its allies want coalition air missions to stop and a unity government to be formed before disarmament talks.
We went to Kuwait and we have a sincere intention to achieve peace and stability, and we have a sincere intention to engage in dialogue with other party who took the state and its authority by force, who caused destruction in the country. But despite this, we are Yemeni brothers at the end of the day. If there is a good and honest will, we can reach political solutions that ends this war.
A Saudi-led coalition carried out airstrikes on the Al-Qaeda-held port of Mukalla in southern Yemen to recapture the city from the fighters' grip and killed at least 30 militants. A military official said the airstrikes were carried out in coordination with a ground offensive. Residents said the airstrikes hit a building that was used as its headquarters as well as gathering of the group. Local officials also said dozens of armored vehicles and hundreds of troops are gathered in Rama, around 70 kilometers north of Mukalla, in preparation for a ground push. North Korea said a submarine launched ballistic missile test it conducted under the supervision of leader Kim Jong-un had been a great success that provided one more means to powerful nuclear attack. The North State-run television, KRT, released several still photographs of Kim Jong-un watching the submarine-launched ballistic missile test and underwater photographs showing a missile being fired. Meanwhile, South Korea denounced North Korea after it fired the missile amid concerns that the isolated state might conduct a nuclear test or a missile launch ahead of a rare ruling party meeting in May. South Korea's foreign ministry spokesman said his country will take necessary measures in the UN Security Council. He added that South Korea will put more efforts into faithfully implementing the Security Council resolution, enforcing the sanctions against North Korea, and putting pressure on it. With the emergence of improved pediatric cardiac heart-saving surgical strategy, Jordan has become the venue of a pediatric cardiac surgical operation performed free of charge by the internationally renowned Italian surgeon Dr. Giancarlo Cruppi on mainly refugee children suffering from congenital heart defect and at Al-Istiqlal Hospital in Amman. The project of international cooperation in pediatric surgery, which was established in December 2013, also aims at giving a second chance of life to children and optimizing their quality of life, in addition to the choice of always being near a sick child.
The operation was successful, long, but quite successful. At the moment, the only problem is some bleeding that will stop. Following the operation, the boy will be able to live a normal life like any other child. And this kind of operation are useful to show to the local staff, doctors and nursing, how to do it, and hoping that in the future they will be able to do it by themselves.
French climber Alain Robert, known worldwide as Spider-Man, climbed the tallest building in Kazakhstan's capital, Almaty. Robert scaled the 138-meter tall Istai Tower in 1 hour and 7 minutes. It was the first building he has climbed in Central Asia. In March 2011, Robert climbed the tallest building in the world, the 828-meter tall skyscraper, the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, which took him over 6 hours. Italian MotoGP great Valentino Rossi won the Spanish Grand Prix with a dominant pole to flag ride to the 113th victory of his career in all categories. The 37-year-old Yamaha rider kept Spanish teammate and reigning world champion Jorge Lorenzo comfortably behind him to take this checkered flag with his front wheel. It was his 87th win in the top class. Lorenzo finished second for his 100th career podium, with championship leader and fellow Spaniard Marc Marquez in third place for Honda. Polish rider Niemiec won the first race of the Tour of Turkey in Istanbul, finishing ahead of Portuguese rider José Goncalves and Italian Marco Zanotti. A crash beneath a bridge during the early parts of the 129-kilometer course left several riders requiring medical attention, leading the race to be neutralized. 5 riders broke into a leading pack once the race restarted, as Polish rider Niemiec of Team Lamper Merida broke away from the pack with over 10 kilometers remaining. And finally, pleasant conditions continue in most regions for the rest of tonight, with high clouds and southwesterly moderate winds. Relatively hot conditions prevail across the kingdom tomorrow, with partly cloudy skies and northwesterly moderate to brisk winds raising dust in the eastern regions. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect hot conditions tomorrow, with northerly moderate winds and calm seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. And to end the news, here's a recap of our top stories. Fighting resumes between government forces and rebels in the Syrian city of Aleppo after the collapse of peace talks in Geneva. The Yemeni Prime Minister says his government intends to achieve peace and stability in the country as peace talks enter a 4th day in Kuwait. And South Korea denounces North Korea after it fires the missile amid concerns that the isolated state might conduct a nuclear test ahead of a rare ruling party meeting in May. And with this we come to an end. I'm Farah Ajrouni. Thank you for watching and have a good night.